It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Muskingum head softball coach, Coach Laina Connor. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college softball?
So really it took me a little bit of soul searching. I would say I was a business and management and marketing major at Muskingum University, and really had other plans for myself. And then, as I was going through my senior year, applying, trying to find a fit for myself after college, I actually had a professor that was like, man, you have a lot of coaching experience, you have a lot of umpiring experience. As you're trying to kind of figure out what you want to do, why don't you think about graduate assistant? And so, at that point, I talked to my coach about it, and she kind of helped me get the ball rolling. And so I just kind of got into it as a, trying to bridge the gap and figure out what I wanted to do, and haven't left. So very much kind of stumbled into it, but I've always had a passion for coaching. Throughout college, I gave lessons to a lot of the youth girls in my area, and so it really just seemed like the perfect fit for me.
What was that experience like, getting to play collegiate softball and putting on that uniform?
Amazing. I think being a Division III institution, we operate a little bit differently than what a lot of people think a D3 program would operate like. And so it was a lot harder, a lot more challenging than what I thought it was going to be. And I took a lot of pride in being able to be a part of this program, getting to put on that uniform and represent this program. There's a lot of history, there's a lot of tradition. And so, if you look into what this program has meant for decades, not just for softball, but for women in athletics, Title IX, all of those things, it just was a true honor for me to be able to put on a uniform as a player and just be a small part of that history.
During your time as a player, what were some of your biggest accomplishments on the softball field?
So when I was a player, we won a conference championship, made it to regional championship, made it to conference championship my senior year. But we were very much in a rebuilding phase when I was here. So to be able to kind of be a part of that and see what that took was really helpful, also for my coaching career.
While in college, what was that experience like, being a captain your senior year?
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging. Everyone wants to be a leader, and then whenever you are in that role, you realize how challenging it really is to, hold other people to the standard that you hold yourself to. There was definitely a lot of growing pains through it, but ultimately, it made me a better teammate, and I think helped prepare me to be a coach as well.
After your playing time, what was it like getting into coaching and first being a grad assistant at Westminster College?
So like I said, I kind of decided in the spring, my senior year, that was the path that I wanted to take. It's funny how things work out. I felt like everything kind of fell together perfectly. I met an alum, Dan Hughes, who was actually a WNBA coach. He just happened to be on campus, and met with some of us that were interested in sports and kind of going that route. And that morning I had applied to the Westminster GA position, and I had mentioned that to him whenever I had a chance to talk to him. And, he was good friends with their athletic director there, and was able to make that connection for me. And so, I very much don't believe in coincidences. So to see that really play together very nicely was really cool. so going into that experience, I knew what it was like to be a player, and I had a lot to learn. I think that it was really good because the coach there had a very different perspective, and was just at a different point in her life. And so I was able to learn a lot from her, and help, kind of shift my idea of college coaching. And, that was a really fun time. For me, she gave me a lot of freedom to coach and to bring ideas to her and kind of make it what I wanted. And so I was able to learn a lot, with, trial by fire kind of, and get to implement a lot of my ideas into that program.
Coming out of your grad assistant time, what was it like getting your first full-time assistant coaching job?
Yeah, so I was at Denison for that, and it's what I needed. I struggled, and it just, that program operated a lot differently. I learned a lot more on the administrative side of things, the professional side of things. I grew in a lot of areas that I needed to grow in. And, at that point, for that position, I was the pitching coach. And so I was solely in charge of pitchers and catchers, whereas as a GA, I was, I just kind of helped with everything. So to kind of have my own, thing that I was in charge of was really good too. Gave me a lot of ownership over that. And, I tried to take that and run with it. And once again, grew a lot, learned a lot. And I'm really thankful for both of those assistant positions, because it really helped me to shape my mentality today and take a lot of different things from my 3 different experiences and plug them into kind of my coaching philosophy today.
While there, what was that experience like getting to coach the pitchers and the catchers?
It was a lot of fun. Getting to build that rapport with a smaller group on the team. We really got to dive in and spend a lot of time together, have a lot of great conversations, on a much smaller scale, which when you're coaching everybody all at once, it can be a lot more challenging to get to know your players on that one-to-one basis. And that's kind of not really answering your question, but that's something that we're going to try to implement more of moving forward, just because that's something that I think is really important, is getting to dive deeper into not just the softball knowledge and coaching, but also the ability to have more of those one-on-one conversations with players just about how they're doing in life as well. But I think I also learned a lot in that experience and being the pitching coach. And I think it's very much helped me transition into being a head coach.
What was that feeling like the first time you became a head coach for the first time in your coaching career?
Yeah, super exciting. I had a lot to do in terms of changing that program, helping it become more competitive. When I took over, there were only 13 players on my team, and so there was just a lot of creativity that I needed to muster up. But it was so much fun. I absolutely loved getting to kind of be in control of my own destiny and in control of the recruiting process. And I was very, very thankful for that opportunity, for someone to take a chance on me and let me, I guess, be in control of a program was something I definitely have not taken for granted.
After your first time as a head coach, what was that feeling like, getting that call from your alma mater to come back home to become a head coach?
Yeah, amazing. It very much was not a position I ever thought was in my future. I'm only the 3rd head coach in program history. So, Coach Newberry, who was here for 35 plus years, was a Hall of Fame coach. And then Coach Winters took over, and that's who I played for. She's now our athletic director. And so I didn't see her moving out of that role as a coach. So to know that she was, and that this opportunity was opening, I very much didn't feel adequate. I didn't have a lot of head coach experience, but it was something I absolutely had to try for, and knew that I needed it to be the right fit at the same time for my growing family, and ultimately we decided it was. But very, very cool. Once again, I just believe that everything happens for a reason, and so I am very thankful to be sitting in this seat and having the opportunity to lead this program.
As a former alumni, what was that feeling like, as you said, being the third head coach in history to take over?
Oh, awesome. Once again, I don't take this opportunity for granted. We are our saying right now with our program is respect the past, shape the future. And so we are trying to get our program to the national level again. And we have one national championship that was won in 2001. And so we're trying to build back to competing at that level, and being a national powerhouse.
For you, what was that feeling like stepping onto that softball field for the first time as a head coach?
Surreal. It was very weird being back, and I'd been back for alumni events, but to know that this is my thing now, it took some time to sink in. Walking back into this office, not being in here getting scolded for decisions on the weekend or whatever. This is where I get to spend my day every day, and that was just really, really cool. And like I said, it just kind of surreal to be on this side of things now.
How is it like when you stepped onto that field as a softball player, but now as a coach?
Just awesome. It's so special to be able to kind of have that full circle moment of playing here, coming to school here, and really figuring out who I was, building my confidence in myself here. And now I get to help other women do the same thing in the same uniform. It's just a really special thing to be able to be a part of.
What would you tell your younger self that was a freshman in college, looking back on being the head coach at your alma mater?
Trust yourself. Take chances, and you're gonna learn. You're gonna fail, but learn from those experiences. And never doubt yourself. I'm really good at that. But I think that as I can look back and see all of the things that I've been able to be a part of, it's learning from the failures and just continuing to try and learn and grow.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a coach versus for your athletes?
So for me, depending on a weekday game versus a weekend game, typically I'll go check the field in the morning just to make sure everything is playable and all well and good. I'll usually come into the office for an hour or two and get some work done. And then I'll usually go home and kind of hang out for a little bit, do whatever chores I might need to do, grab some food, and then head over to the field. Usually like 2.5 hours before the game, sometimes 3 hours before the game starts. For our players, once again, it really depends on weekday versus weekend. They're in class all morning during the week. And then once again, they usually will come over about 2.5 hours before the game. Some of them, depending on their class schedule, I know we'll get some cuts in, tea work and those types of things if they have the time to do that. And then they'll get over about 2 hours before the game for warm-ups and then get ready to play.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you built for the softball program?
I don't know that I would say I've built the culture. I think we've just added on to what the culture already was. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of tradition and history within our program. We are just continuing to try to hone, I would say, the daily habits of our players, and that's very much been our mission over the past 2 years, is focusing on the process. We read a book this past year, and it was all about surrendering the outcome. And so we are trying to do the right things day to day, and know that sometimes the outcome is going to be what we want it to be, and sometimes it's not. But if we are taking care of the little things day to day, we're going to end up getting the outcome that we want more often than not. And so trying to not put pressure on having to accomplish something, but very much having the privilege to work towards something. And so that's what we're very much about. And I think that's maybe a little bit of a shift. But I wouldn't say we've necessarily created anything. Like I said, we're just kind of honing in what's already been established within our program.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
So we are in the OAC conference. So we face Mount Union, Marietta, Capital University, Heidelberg, Wilmington, Ohio Northern. I know I'm forgetting a couple, but everyone in the Ohio Athletic Conference.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Union comes to your home facility?
It's so much fun. We will have players or athletes, fans that'll bring couches out and sit them in left field. There are a lot of fans that will sit around the outfield fence with tents, and we'll have parents that will cook out. A couple of our games toward the end of the season, when the weather was really great, we had whole sports teams that were coming and cheering for our team. So it's a lot of fun, especially when the weather isn't 75 and sunny.
What is that atmosphere like away when you play teams like Wilmington?
I don't quite see the same atmosphere at other institutions that we play at. I won't say all of them, but I really think that we get a great crowd at our games. I will say, being a program that's been very competitive for a very long time, every other team always brings their A game to us. And so it's always a competitive atmosphere at any time we play, because we are a program that other programs don't really want to see succeed. So it's always competitive.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, very much. You got to have a certain level of softball skill. That's a given. But beyond that, we very much look for, the confidence, the body language. Are you a great teammate? Are you talking to your teammates in the dugout? Are you mad for 30 minutes after you strike out? Those things are all part of the game. How you handle that adversity, how you handle that failure. Those are things that really stand out to us. It's a lot easier to coach a softball skill rather than a personality. So we try to find athletes that are going to be process oriented, that want to put in the work and do what they need to do when nobody's watching. And that can be hard to notice whenever you're just watching a softball game, but there are definitely things that we look for and kind of take note of that allude to those things being true in somebody's day-to-day. So those are the things that we really look for. We typically work like a year and a half advance. So, right now we are working on those rising seniors. We have a couple that are committed already, but we'll finish up our recruiting class early this fall, and then we'll really get going with that next class with it'll be the 2026 class. So We obviously can't work as quickly as the Division Ones, but we try to kind of keep on top of it. We typically will have some athletes in each recruiting class that have been on campus a few times by their junior year and are ready for that stage, and then we have others that aren't quite there yet. So we try to just base it off of the timeline of the athletes, but usually, we're looking at athletes wanting to know where they're going to school before October of their senior year.
As a head coach in an alma mater, what is it like seeing those athletes fall in love with your campus?
It's incredible. For them to love the same things about this place that I do is really a special bond. And it's just really, it's really cool.
As a head coach in an alma mater, what is it like getting to see those freshmen put on that softball uniform for the first time?
It's awesome. We dedicate a lot of time to the recruiting process and getting to know our recruits. For some of them, we do talk to them and build relationships with them for 2-3 years, before they ever step foot on campus. And so for that time to finally come, for them to really get to represent the team after, a long time of working for this goal, it's really cool for us. We love it. It's something kind of old school. Like, I pick the uniform numbers for our players. Those things are special. There's certain numbers within the program that mean something. And so, there's things like that I just think are really special that they probably don't know. But I hold very dear to me.
What is it like getting to see your athletes achieve those big milestones in their careers, like their first home runs versus their last home runs?
Oh, it's incredible. When you can see the day-to-day processes getting those outcomes, it just makes me so proud of them, and the work that they put in, because I see how hard they work. I know the hours that they put in and dedicate to being as good as they can be at the sport, and that's really special. It takes a lot to be a college athlete, and it really takes a lot to be a softball player in our program. We have very high expectations, and we demand a lot of our athletes, and so I love and wish everyone could always get the outcomes that they're working so hard for, but it's very special to see them succeeding.
What's it like getting to see those seniors put on that uniform for the last time in either their first professional softball uniform or their first coaching uniform?
Yeah, it's cool. So I've been here for 2 years now, and we have a few players that have stepped into the coaching role. And so it is really cool to see these players wanting to continue being a part of the game, just like I did, in whatever facet that might be, whether it is, helping a high school program or a travel team, or, continuing on to coach collegiately. They, I think that they are just awesome for wanting to continue to grow the game. I think it's really special to see those seniors, because it's hard. It's hard to make it 4 years in a collegiate program. And so typically over the course of those years, you have that class kind of dwindle down, and you don't have as many as what started. And so to see the ones that remain and have decided to continue to prioritize softball in their collegiate experience, it's very, very cool to see that shake out.
What are some of your coaching accomplishments so far?
So this past year we got an at-large bid. We won a regional championship, made it to super regionals. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be able to get back to that national stage, and something we've got to continue building on. And so I'm just excited to keep building for the future.
What was that experience like, getting that at-large bid and going to the regionals?
Yeah, we didn't see it coming, to be honest. We had won some great games throughout the year where, it was very possible that we would have the chance, and then we didn't do as well in our conference tournament as what we had hoped to do. And so I very much thought after that, we probably didn't have the opportunity. And so to see our name flip up on the board and be the last name that was called was incredible. It was a little bit hectic because we weren't necessarily prepared for it. But then, it very much just felt like awesome. Bonus softball, let's just go play. Let's see how it shakes out. There was no more expectation. Whether it was from outsiders or expectations that they were putting on themselves. We just got to go play another weekend. And I think taking that mentality into it is what helped us win. We just kind of showed up to each game and played in the moment. And that the regional is very much where everything we had talked about all year long fell together. Our players were playing for each other. They were, I can't describe it other than they just really came together, and it was very special as a coach to watch it unfold. We had a very large freshman class, and so they spent the whole year just doing what they were told because they didn't really understand what that other, what the other side of things looked like and felt like. And so at that point, I think the light bulbs went off in their head too, of like, this is why, we've been talking about these certain things all year long. And so that was really, really cool to experience. And, to see how much harder they're working this summer. It's easy to make it that far and then think like, yep, we're just going to automatically do it again next year because we did it this year. It's twice as hard to get back. And so, we already have a target on our back, just being Muskingum softball, but now we really are going to. And so to see them putting in twice the work, 3 times the work as they did last summer, I'm just super excited about the buy-in and the mentality that our players have to not just hope it happens, but work to make sure that it happens.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college softball?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. The discomfort, being away from home, the growing pains, it's normal. You're going to struggle. You're going to go through things that you didn't think you were going to go through. But that's what helps you grow. And it is so worth it to allow yourself that discomfort so that you can grow. It's going to challenge you in ways you never thought possible. But that's where your confidence, that's where your belief in yourself, that's where all of those things come from. And so be ready to be uncomfortable. Be ready to grow in whatever areas that might be. It might not just be softball. It's the social, it's the time management, it's the, college level classes. All of those things are going to force you to grow, whether you want to or not. And so embracing that change and embracing, that growth is what's going to help make it a better experience. Because if you try to dig your heels in, you're not gonna have a great time. But if you realize that you're going to go through some stuff and you've got to, dig deep, it makes it a lot, easier is maybe not the right word, but you can definitely come through the other side and be thankful and grateful for those opportunities to grow.
What advice would you give those players out there looking to get into coaching or playing professional softball?
Same advice I'd give my younger self. Take chances, take risks, learn from your failures. Try, you don't have to be perfect, but you've got to learn and you've got to grow and adapt. So I think very much just putting yourself into opportunities, meet people, to connect with people, to make yourself uncomfortable, and then learn from it. You know, it could go horribly wrong, or it could go really great. So you're never gonna know unless you try. The saying is, it's always gonna be no if you don't ask. So just really trying and putting yourself out there and learning from all of your experiences is the advice that I'd give.
What advice would you give those coaches looking to coach at their alma mater like you have?
It's not going to be the same as your undergrad experience. Being on this side of the seat, it is very much different, but it's so rewarding and so worth it to have the full circle moment, to be able to represent the program in a different way is really, really special. So highly recommend. But it's definitely not going to be perfect. So you got to figure out how to continue to represent the program in the best way that you possibly can.
What advice would you give those head coaches out there looking to start their own program and build their own legacy?
Be true to yourself. So, it would be really easy for me to sit here and think about Donna Newberry and her Hall of Fame career and try to be her, try to do things the way that she did things, but I'm not her. And so I know that I have to be myself and build this the way that makes sense for me and my family and my personality. And so I think that that's maybe something that I'm the most proud of, is knowing that I just need to be me. And it's so far we've seen some good outcomes that way, and so we're going to just continue to build it out that way. But I very much think that you've got to figure out what makes you tick, and find players that fit within your personality and the culture that you are trying to build.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program app?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program
app? So our Twitter is Muskingum University Softball. Our Instagram is Muskie Softball, and my Twitter is Laina Connor. I tweet and retweet pretty much all of our Muskingum softball stuff. So you can definitely find one and the other pretty easily.
Thank you again, Coach Laina Connor, for your interview, and best luck in your future at Muskingum College as the head softball coach.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Laina Connor, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thanks.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.